Object pronouns in Spanish replace nouns that function as the object of a verb. Instead of repeating a noun, we replace it with a pronoun. Direct object pronouns replace the direct object of a verb. That is, the person or thing that receives the action directly. They also answer the questions what or whom. And in English, we can have a simple phrase like, I eat an apple. I eat it. The direct object is apple, and its pronoun is it. Such pronouns in English are me, you, him, her, it, us, and them. But in Spanish, their forms are different, affected by gender and number. Me, te, lo, la, nos, os, los, las. Os is the direct object pronoun for you, all, and it's commonly used in Spain. In Latin America, lo, la, los, and las are the more frequent pronouns. While some pronouns are understandable, others are affected by gender and number. Lo can mean singular masculine it or him. La can be singular feminine it or her. Los can be plural masculine them, as in people or things, and las can mean plural feminine them. So, this is what direct object pronouns look like in Spanish. So let's see how to use them. First, we need to understand their placement. The most common placement for them is before a conjugated verb, and we can see them in order in basic phrases. Me ves. Te llamo. Lo leo. Nos escuchan. Los veo. This method is the most common, but at the same time, such pronouns can be attached to infinitives and gerunds. If we want to attach a pronoun to an infinitive, we simply put it at the end. Quiero comer la manzana. Quiero comerla. Necesito leer el libro. Necesito leerlo. Both placements are correct, and the attachment sounds natural in spoken Spanish. Additionally, we can attach direct object pronouns to gerunds, which express ongoing actions. Spanish gerunds end in ando or yendo, similar to the English ing. Just like infinitives, we can attach pronouns as they are, which is most common in the progressive tense that uses the verb estar, to be. This construction behaves like a single verbal unit, but pronoun placement is flexible. We can see this formation in comparison to the basic form. Estoy leyendo el libro. Lo estoy leyendo. Estoy leyéndolo. Notably, an accent appears in the word, and there is a reason why. Spanish adds an accent when attaching pronouns to a gerund to keep the original stress of the gerund. Naturally, Spanish gerunds stress the second to last syllable, like in the words dando, comiendo, viviendo. No written accent is needed because they already follow normal stress rules. When we add pronouns, the word gets longer, and the stress would shift incorrectly if we didn't add an accent, like dándolo. However, we need to keep the original stress, so we add an accent. Dándolo. Dándolo. Whenever we attach pronouns to a gerund, we almost always need a written accent, because 1, the syllable count increases, and 2, stress rules would move the emphasis. That's why written accents are needed for gerunds, because we keep the stress on the same syllable as before. Now, let's see indirect object pronouns, which replace the person to whom or for whom something is done, thereby answering such questions. In English, an example is I give the book to John. I give him the book, or I give the book to him. In this case, there's a direct object with an indirect object, so him is the indirect object pronoun. Such pronouns in English borrow the same form, but most of the time they're specified in context with the preposition to or for. In Spanish, the forms are also borrowed, but some change. Me, te, le, nos, os, les. Such pronouns don't just mean me, you, him. They mean to me, to you, to him, basically indicating to whom. Even so, to him and to her have the same pronoun, le, and it can be ambiguous in context. To specify the person of le, Spanish clarifies it with a plus a person, which I will show in a moment. So, this is what indirect object pronouns look like in Spanish, so let's see how to use them. The good thing is that placement rules are the same as before. The most common placement is before a conjugated verb, and we can see them in order in basic phrases. Me escribes. Te doy dinero. Le compro comida a María. Les das un regalo. Notice how some examples also have direct objects, because typically the two types of pronouns work together in context. Even so, a sentence like le compro comida can be ambiguous, because le can indicate to him, to her, and even to you, formal. To specify the person, we add a plus a person, and in this case, it's a María, to Maria. So, the sentence literally translates to her, I buy food for Maria, but without the specification, le would mean to him or to her. That's why it's important to clarify the person. Placing such pronouns before verbs is the most common method, but at the same time, they work with infinitives and gerunds the same way. To attach an indirect object pronoun to an infinitive, simply place it as is. We can see an example with a pronoun before and after. Le voy a dar un regalo a María. Voy a darle un regalo a María. To attach an indirect object pronoun to a gerund, we follow the same rules as before, especially in comparison to a basic form. Le estoy escribiendo a Juan. Estoy escribiéndole a Juan. The last thing to consider is double object pronouns that combine indirect pronouns with direct pronouns. At this point, the concept can be hard to understand because Spanish changes the form of some pronouns when combined. It's important to understand that when combining pronouns, indirect ones will come first, and then direct ones. This combination will cause some indirect object pronouns to change form. Specifically, le and les will change form to se when followed by lo, la, los, las. This is done on purpose to avoid repeating the same consonant, because le, les, lo, la, los, and las all start with L. To avoid this repetition, le and les change to se. So, in a sentence like le doy el libro a María, the direct object is el libro, and the indirect object is a María. El libro becomes lo, and a María becomes le, but together they do not make le lo doy. According to the rule, le and les change to se, so the sentence will be se lo doy, se lo doy. However, just like the ambiguity with le, se can refer to him, to her, or to them when unspecified in context. To clarify the person, add a plus a person, like before. this construction is better understood in comparison. Le doy la carta a Juan. Se la doy a Juan. Just like previous concepts, placing combined pronouns before verbs is again the most common way, and as always, it's possible to attach them to infinitives and gerunds. With infinitives, the indirect pronoun will go first, and then the direct pronoun. In this case, the infinitive also gets an accent, because it follows the same rule of keeping the stress on the original syllable. Attaching multiple pronouns to an infinitive makes it longer, so it's important to keep the stress on the same syllable by adding an accent. Le voy a dar un regalo a María. Voy a dárselo a María. This rule is also true for gerunds when they combine with multiple pronouns. The form stays the same as with previous concepts, but this is more compact. Le estoy dando un libro a Juan. Estoy dándoselo a Juan. In conclusion, this is how direct and indirect object pronouns fully work in Spanish, and they can feel hard because they're compact and flexible, but once you understand what's being replaced, the system will become predictable and simple.